Welcome back everyone. This time we are going over the stack panel. The only thing we need for this tutorial is a grid with 2 rows and make the top one height 75. So we can see a little better, I'm going to split vertically, zoom this a bit. There we go. So all a stack panel is a container element that's going to contain some collection of children, and what it does is it arranges them in a straight line, either horizontally or vertically. So let's say we want to create some sort of form in this bottom row. So we will say grid.row equals 1. And then we know we're going to have a bunch of text boxes. And you can see when I add one to the stack panel, it goes all the way across. And that's because the default horizontal or vertical alignment is stretch. So whatever you put in here will stretch to fit the outside container. So if I say width equals maybe 150, height equals maybe 30, and we'll give it a margin of 2 all around. Now I have a text box, but if I copy and paste this text box, instead of putting it on top of each other like it would in, say, a grid row, it's actually going to stack them on top of each other based on a straight line. Now the stack panel itself also has certain properties that you can use, like margin. So if you wanted your stack panel to be offset from its container or have a certain width or height, you can do all of that to the stack panel itself. But then anything you put in it will be stacked within this container. You don't have to just use text boxes. You could use a combo box or a label or an image or any control that you want. You can stack them up in a stack panel. You can also change the alignment of these items from stretch to something else. So if you wanted them left aligned, we could say horizontal alignment left, and it would put all of our boxes over here. So now that we have a layout of our boxes, maybe we want a menu bar up top. Let's put another stack panel up here, except for this one we want to change our orientation to horizontal. So the default is vertical, which we saw here, but now our stack panel will align horizontally. So let's add some buttons to our menu bar. We'll say button, maybe a height of, say, 40, width of, say, 75. Let's do a margin of 2 all around, and then let's say just content is A. So now let's copy and paste a couple of these, and we can see them stack from left to right horizontally. Change our content A, B, and C. So now we have buttons in our panel, but you'll notice they are over to the left. So the default stack panel down here, the stretch makes it in the middle because it goes from top to bottom. So this stretch makes it in the middle vertically because we're going left to right. So if we want these buttons to be center aligned, we actually need to set the horizontal alignment to center. So you can see how easy it is to use a stack panel either vertically or horizontally to stack items, especially if they're a similar width and height, and make them look nice without having to use a bunch of grid, row, or column definitions. You do need to be aware, though, that using these creates static widths within the stack panel. So you saw these text boxes stretch to their outside container, which was our grid row, but once these things are stacked, their widths and heights are all static and relative to one another. So if I run this and stretch my window, our stack panels are going to move as one unit. They won't respond to the window like, say, a grid row might. And even if we set something to stretch, like if we didn't center this, we stretched it, it's going to stretch to this row here, but these are still statically sized, so they will not respond even though it is set to stretch. So it doesn't work in all cases for all uses, but if you know your buttons are going to be aligned in a manner like this, like say we were creating this title bar or this button bar here that never moves when the window is resized, then we don't care if it's statically sized, and a stack panel could be a good option for us. The last thing I want to mention is since a stack panel is one element with children, you can actually nest them together, and that can be very useful. So I can say stack panel horizontal and put a horizontal stack panel within my vertical stack panel. And from there I could group things together, like I could say I want a label with content label, and then I want a text box of width 150, and then I want a button with content go. So now I can have this whole grouping within one of my vertical stack entries, and I could horizontally align this to the center of that stack panel. And then I could duplicate these and have multiple stack panels within my vertical stack panel. As we've mentioned before, when you have similar things like this, it's often good to make a custom control so that you can change everything in one place instead of having to change it in multiple places. And also, because of responsive design, this may not be right for you depending on what you're creating. However, the ability to do this can be right in a lot of situations, and even if it's not right, it can make for some really quick prototyping, which is very helpful when you just want to throw a UI together to make sure that some other code works. Next up, we're going to talk about the grid splitter control. So thanks for watching, everybody. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. Happy coding, and as always, until next time, take care.